The Oklahoma Sooners got a big win in game one of the SEC tournament.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Now's the time to get your taxes ready with the folks over at TurboTax, ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed. Head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert. I'm John Williams, and the Oklahoma Sooners pick up a big win in the SEC tournament, beating the Georgia Bulldogs. And it was a back and forth game for much of the first and really for a lot of the second half. But the Oklahoma Sooners really took it to another level in the final 8 minutes, go on a big run, extend a lead out. I think it was like a 14-2 run at one point in time, but extend a lead out to where they're up by 8 going into the final few minutes of the game. And it gets a little bit hairy at different times, but it's because Georgia's got some things going that create a little bit of trouble for the Sooners. But ultimately, Oklahoma pulls it out with some clutch free throws, clutch plays, big rebounds by Mohamed Wague on the offensive end of the floor. And it was just a game full of clutchness. Like, everybody came through clutch. The Sooners were shooting lights out from three in the first half. And even though the first or the second half didn't really start off very clean, there were a lot of, I would say, forced shot attempts early in the second half. The Sooners eventually, they settled down, got their composure, and were much better down the stretch. It was a team that I think they had 8 turnovers in the first half of the game. And then in the second half, they had, let's look at it real quick. In the first half, they had 9 turnovers. In the second half, they had just 3 turnovers. In the first half, they allowed 10 offensive rebounds in the first half. In the second half, just 5 offensive rebounds. So a lot of the things that, hey, even though they went into halftime with a 4-point lead, they were playing good basketball. They were just turning the ball over too much. They were allowing too many second chance opportunities. And they had a stretch where it was like they were giving up an offensive rebound on the defensive end of the floor. And then their next trip down the offensive end, they're turning the ball over. And it was like a several trips down the floor back and forth, kind of like that, where Oklahoma wasn't even able to get a shot off because they had back-to-back turnovers. And one was just a mishandle by Glenn Taylor. One was a travel. I want to say maybe by Jeremiah Fears. But everything changed in the second half. When it came down to crunch time, Oklahoma protected the basketball well. They had better shot selections. They had big-time, momentum boosts and big-time plays, big-time shots made by a bunch of guys, and just came up with enough stops to fend off a Georgia team that gave them a lot of fits and had good length and had good athleticism and good shooters on the outside. And Oklahoma was able to play with them. Jeremiah Fears, man, put together another great game, had 28 points in this one. It was just another phenomenal performance from him on a really big stage. 29 points on 8 of 16 shooting. He was 4 of 7 from 3. At one point, he was 3 of 4 from 3 in the first half, and then finished the day at 1 and 3 in the second half, which, hey, it's fine. That's a little bit better than his percentage typically, but got 12 points out of Mohamed Wague, who had a great game, all while observing Ramadan, fasting during the day, and then having to eat after dark and during the game and hydrate during the game and all that. So shout out to him at 9 rebounds and 4 assists. He came up clutch down the stretch. He had several big rebounds, several free throws that he made that were really important to the team being able to win the game. And obviously that offensive rebound, in the final couple of minutes was really it was the icing on the cake. You miss the shot, you give Georgia an opportunity to get the ball. And I think there's a little over 30 seconds left in the game, and it's just a 2-possession basketball game at that point. If they go and they make it, the game looks a little bit different, but Mohamed Wague is able to get the offensive rebound, get it back to one of the guards, and they're able to set up a timeout and get the inbound. Now they didn't get the inbound right, as Kane was able to get it away from Bryson Goodine, and Goodine knocks it out of bounds. But ultimately, that stretch really sealed the deal for the Sooners. Jalen Moore, he fouled out, but he had 14 points. He was 4 of 5 from 3. Jalen Moore was 4 or 5 from 3. That dude is going to be an NBA player because he's continued to evolve his game. He was already a really good slasher style player playing off the wing, but now that he's added that 3-point element to his arsenal, I mean, somebody's going to draft him, and I think he'll probably be a late first, second round kind of draft pick, but he's got good length. He's got good size, good athleticism. Somebody's going to enjoy having him on their team. But nobody else scored in double figures. Kobe Elvis had 9, came up with some big, buckets down the stretch. So did Duke Miles. But ultimately, it was just a really, really solid performance. Oklahoma shot 48.1% from the field. Georgia shot a good 44.4%. And just what it came down to was Oklahoma was able to make enough stops in the second half, and then again, protect the basketball a little bit better. They both ended up with 12 turnovers, and the big difference comes down to Oklahoma being able to defend their glass, defend the defensive glass, not allow offensive rebounds in the second half. That changed the complexion of the game because, Georgia was absolutely dominating the boards in the first, and it was creating so many extra opportunities for them. But credit to Porter Moser, credit to the staff. They were able to find some adjustments and make some adjustments and get the guys and challenge them. And they came up big. Jeremiah Fears, I kind of mentioned it a second ago, 29 points. That kid is just, it's incredible that he's that good at his age in his first run through college basketball, just to be able to play with such control and such poise in big moments. Some of the shots didn't fall that, he expected to fall, but just a dynamic basketball player, And it's really easy to look at this team now and see them as a tournament team. They're a tournament team. This is an NCAA tournament team. We'll talk about a little bit more of that next. We'll talk about how we gotta have to give some Porter Moser flowers out, because as much as he was on the hot seat like 2 months ago, he's coached himself well off the hot seat with the performance that Oklahoma's put in over the last 6 games. He's done a really good job. Last 7 games, I should say, because they had a good finish to the season. I guess the last 6 games. They've finished 3-2 down the stretch, put themselves in a position to be on the good side of the bubble going into the SEC tournament, and then come up and they win a game in the SEC tournament when I doubt many people thought that they were going to be able to do that. But they've been playing really good basketball of late. They've been playing together. You listen to Porter Moser and Jeremiah Fears talk in the post game, and so much of it is about just a togetherness, staying together, playing through the hardships, playing through the difficulties, fighting through the difficulties. And these are just messages from the coach. And as much as, everybody was wanting to run Porter Moser out of town because of the way maybe the LSU game finished, and you had a stretch of 5 straight losses where you lost to 4 ranked teams, including a really good Auburn team and a really good Florida team and Alabama. You lost some great teams. That LSU loss was disappointing because you had a 5-point lead in the final 24 seconds, but he's rallied the troops. Even though you lost to Kentucky and you lost to Ole Miss, they were 1-possession games. There were close ball games that you had a chance to win against top 25 opponents. And he's been able to keep this team together, keep this team continuing to fight, keep this team continuing to battle. That's who I want coaching my team. Has it always been perfect? No. Has it always looked clean? Absolutely not. But he's turned my head, man. He's the right guy. You got to continue to build around this guy. You got to invest a little bit more in the NIL game so that you can continue to attract good talent. But Oklahoma's got their guy for the basketball team. This is the message you want. You want that effort. You want that fight. You want these guys fighting for every little thing that they do. And who knows if it was just some message that came out after the LSU game, and it was, hey, we've got to turn this thing around, and it's going to start with how we perform, and we control our own destiny. And to go 3-2 down the stretch, and including picking up, a couple top 25 wins over Mississippi State and over Missouri, and then beating Texas on the road, like that's huge, absolutely huge. And then to go into the SEC tournament and continue to build that momentum and have that success against Georgia. Awesome. Just absolutely awesome. Porter Moser is going to have this team in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be, I thought they were going to be an NCAA tournament team after they beat Missouri. The Texas win created a little bit more breathing room, and this Georgia win, it puts them, to me, definitively in. Joe Lunardi of ESPN and his bracketology had them as a 90%, 92% chance of making the SEC or the NCAA tournament with a win over Georgia. Here we are. Just win, baby. And they did, and they've done it. And so you still got a lot to play for. You want to, because Porter Moser was asked by Molly McGrath in the post game, what does this win do for you? Or did you have like this desire to win this one so you could secure an NCAA tournament berth? And Porter Moser said, we're coming to win the SEC tournament. That's our goal. Our goal is not just to win one game, but they want to win all the games. And if they do that, they'll improve their seeding. But I like the message. I like the mentality. Go win them all. It's like Major League, right? There's only one thing left to do. Win the whole dang thing. And with the play that they can get out of Jeremiah Fears, with the streaky shooting they can get from Bryson Goodine, Duke Miles, Kobe Elvis, with improved inside play, like Sam Godwin was playing well down the stretch before he got hurt. Mohamed Wague has played really, really good in his absence. I feel like they've got two good bigs if Sam Godwin comes back healthy. And if not, Wague is a player that he can help you offensively. He's not just a defensive presence. He can actually do something for you on the offensive end of the floor. So you've got a tournament team that, I mean, who knows what could happen? This has the makings of one of those quote unquote Cinderella type of runs, because you've got a star in a guy like Jeremiah Fears, that if he gets rolling in the tournament, there's a chance that they could find themselves winning a couple games and making the Sweet 16. At this point, you're playing with house money. You got nothing to lose. Just let it all hang out. Go show out. Go put on your best. Give everything you've got. Because for a guy like Jalen Moore, this is his last run. A guy like Jeremiah Fears might be his only run before he goes off to the NBA. So they're going to give everything they have for the final few games, however many more games that they've got left at the University of Oklahoma. They're going to continue to give everything they've got, just like they've done over the last 6 games. So they're going to play Kentucky next, which, I mean, that was a classic just a couple of weeks ago. And listen, can they get one back? We'll see. It's a tough matchup against a tough team, but Oklahoma played with them. They went blow for blow with them in the matchup just a couple weeks ago. So I think Oklahoma, with the way that they've been playing basketball recently, who's to say they can't go and knock off a Kentucky team that's pretty good? And that's going to do it for this post-game edition of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow the show at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooner.